Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we truly provide worldwide education, inspiration, and hope. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Hot Topic, and we're going to be talking about different types of cancer, what you need to know, what to look for, and it's actually quite timely. My dear mother passed away literally a month ago today from cancer, so I'm going to hold it together. I'm excited to bring out the star of our show, Mr. red.olaughlin, who also has expertise in this area. And then we have a fabulous guest joining us from Ghana. So before we bring him out, let's welcome red.olaughlin to our show. Hello.
Howdy, Dr. JACALYN. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you, Red. Always great to see you joining us from Texas in the United States of America. And as you know, this talking about cancer, specifically cervical, breast, and prostate, this is an area where you have a lot of personal and professional expertise. Tell us more.
Well, I don't have any of the more invasive cancers, but I have skin cancers all the time. Being a redhead, over time, just the sun hitting the skin, cancer here or there, and it's generally pretty easy to take care of. However, when I look back into family history, my dad died of cancer. I have a sister that died of cancer. I had others in there that have had cancers removed, but probably more personal and more close to home is my wife had breast cancer. I guess in February, it'll be 10 years. And it was an experience she went through. Surgery and chemo and radiation. And ironically, it was one of the things that got me back involved in the health and wellness industry. It's not something I was in prior, it's something I've always had an interest in. I fell in love with chemistry as a sophomore in high school, got a degree in it, got an invitation to Vietnam, never practiced it until my wife came down with cancer and was on chemo. And I was looking for some way, what can I do to help some of the side effects from the drugs? And so I started diving into researching what's going on with the body. And so it started my process of researching the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking, looking for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem, treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. And I could talk to the nurses, I could talk to in various forums, and some unrelated things made a big difference in the treatment of cancer. Didn't know why. Okay, well, let me go look this up and find out what's going on. What's causing this chain reaction of chemicals to either stop or slow down or whatever the process was. And so from that perspective on, it's been a learning curve of, well, what causes arthritis? What causes Alzheimer's? What causes other kinds of things? And so from the perspective of a cause and effect analysis of disease, that's kind of where I'm at today. That's what I research. It's what I write about. It's what I speak about. And it's what I talk about here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Thank you so much, Red. And again, thanks for all the value that you bring to our platform. I think we have 4 shows today. It was going to be 5, but we're like, no, let's take a break here. So without further ado, I want to welcome someone very special who came to us through Dr. Wahid. We had the opportunity to interview him. Many people watching out there, whether it's live or in the replay, know of Dr. Wahid and the incredible work that he is doing. So Blaise is a nurse. Blaise is also a cervical cancer advocate. Blaise has won a number of awards. I just was watching one of his acceptances for another award. We'll have to hear more about that. He's a health influencer and a medical media personality, and then secretary of Cancer Support Network Foundation, a very valuable asset to Ghana. And it seems like to the whole world, because we are worldwide. And Blaise is here. Welcome, Blaise.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hi, 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 hi. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And as Red was saying backstage, you have a beautiful smile, you've got this great presence, and yet you're dealing with topics, you're dealing with things that are dark, right? That can be terrifying and frightening and life-changing. How does someone with such positive energy and vibes get involved in a field like cancer advocacy?
Yeah, yeah. It has really been a great experience in cancer advocacy. For the past 8 years, I have been advocating for prostate cancer, breast cancer, and cervical cancer. And initially, when I started this whole advocacy, I started with the cervical cancer. Um, one night, I saw two sheets of papers folded, and something prompted me to open one. So I opened the first one, it was cervical cancer. And I was saying, a man talking about cervical cancer, why is a man seeing cervical cancer? So I was a little bit, it was some way. So I just decided to open the second sheet of paper that I saw in my dream. And I realized that that was also breast cancer. So something just prompted me to pick these things and speak about them. And God being so good for the past 8 years, the kind of impacts I've been able to make in the lives of women, the kind of impacts I've been able to make in the life of men, it has been so amazing. In fact, now there are 16 regions in Ghana, and I've traveled across almost all the regions in Ghana, basically to educate and also screen men and women on these conditions who cannot even afford for the screening services. So it has been an amazing journey with me in my cancer advocacy.
Thank you, Blaise.
Blaise, you mentioned screening, and that's something that's very important. I've told people on this network that I have not missed an annual physical since 1968. It's something I believe in, annual screenings. I ask for extra screenings that are above and beyond what I normally get with regard to certain kinds of testing. I think it's extremely important that you get these kinds of things. In fact, my wife was at her oncologist this past week, and it's been almost 10 years since she had surgery, and they want to bump her blood tests up so it's every 6 months rather than once a year, just to have that assurance if something's going to happen, they can catch it early enough. So when you're doing screenings, I assume these are not people who have screenings every year. These are people who probably have almost no screenings, and you're taking that ability of providing that screening opportunity to people who literally may not have ever had a screening in their life. Could you talk a little bit how you got involved in taking that service, that life-saving service to people who need it?
Okay, so basically, it has been tough since day one, and one thing that I must let you know is when I started this whole thing, the monies were coming from my monthly salary from the workplace. That usually I will gather some money for like 3 good months, then I'll move out to a certain community with some medical personnel to help screen these women. And at times too, through some individuals who also provide their support to me to help these women. There are also philanthropists out there who also help. And one good thing is usually when we get positive cases who need further investigations and treatments, at times I reach out to individuals, I reach out to certain organizations to appeal for their support. And one thing that Cancer Support Network Foundation, which is founded by Dr. Juliet Apia Kwanzaa, who is also an oncology specialist in the US. She's doing marvelously well in also helping in supporting these patients whenever they need finances or money for treatment. So basically, the screening services, most of them are being funded from my own salary.
My
That's
goodness.
that's pretty impressive.
That's amazing. That's a true commitment.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Blaise, I went for a mammogram recently here in the States, and I was told by the technician that here in this country, they're going to be advocating, I don't want to say mandating, I'm using air quotes, that mammograms take place every 6 months. So, what are you finding? I mean, based on the fact that you're finding this yourself, how often are these screenings being recommended? And Red had mentioned this might be a once in a lifetime type of thing for someone.
Yeah. So with something like prostate, let's say the prostate screening, usually I recommend that as soon as from 40 years and above, at least every year during the prostate cancer awareness month, you can have your PSA test done. Or even better still, usually I advise people that it's good to use your birthdays, and we use our birthdays to do some of this screening. So at least your prostate screening, at least you can use a day during the year to undergo your PSA test or the digital rectal examination, where your doctor will insert a glove finger into your rectum to examine how your prostate feels like. And with the cervical cancer screening, depending on your age, usually it's recommended that at least every 2 to 3 years you should have your pap smears done. And in fact, outside the health system is working where people have their smears done and they are being reminded of their next schedules, and it's good. But in Africa here, in fact, those we literally face these things. We don't even the schedules. People don't even undergo the screenings because lack of education. People see the cancer as something which is being caused by witchcraft. So people don't get to understand the whole thing because they are lacking education. Under normal circumstances, cervical cancer, 2 to 3 years time, you can have your smears done. But when you have unusual bleedings or anything unusual to the body too, you have to report to the nearest hospital so that more can be done or much can be done for you. With your breast screenings, especially with the mammogram, because of the radiations that we don't want you to be exposing yourselves to, at times too, we encourage self-breast examination so that at least you can examine your breast with your hands for some time. Every usually I advise that every lady should examine the breast, do the manual examination yourself every month, about 3 to 5 days after your menstrual period. You stand in front of your mirror to do yourself breast examination. But with as you are aged 50 years and above, we recommend a mammogram. But the mammogram, you should reduce the rate at which you expose yourself to the radiations. At least every year or two, you can undergo your mammograms. And at times, we should not even wait for breast cancer awareness month, cervical cancer awareness month, or even prostate cancer awareness month before we get screened. Usually, I say that every day is cervical cancer awareness month, every day is prostate cancer awareness month, and every day is breast cancer awareness month. So these are the various options that we have that at least you can walk in and have your smears being done. I even encourage that these services should be accessible in our various workplaces because people are very busy and they can't move to the facilities for the screening. So if the screening is even accessible to companies, organizations, they can easily do it every year or two.
Blaise, I noticed in some of the reference material you gave us that slightly over 10% of the people that you test positive. Is that something that you've seen consistent over the last 8 years that you've been doing this?
Please come again.
In the data that you gave us when you're doing the screenings,
Yeah,
about 10%, a little over 10% of the people have tested positive for cancer.
yeah.
And so the question that I have is that a trend that's been consistent, or has it been growing or declining? 10% is a pretty high number, and I'm just kind of curious, is it sustaining at 10%, or you're still in the process of trying to determine what the real rate of cancer is.
So for the past year, up to even 2023, I think if we are to look at our cancer cases, they are rather rising. They are not declining, and because in fact in Africa here, we most of our system, we don't have a proper plan for cancer screenings, and we don't have a proper plan where people will be educated, will be well informed about this screening stuff. So it's rather increasing. It's rather increasing. These three cancers, they are on a rise in Ghana. These three cancers in other countries, they are on a rise, and it's very alarming. When you look at cervical cancer, for instance, in Ghana, every year just close to 3,000 women are diagnosed of cervical cancer in Ghana. Out of that, more than half lose their lives. So you can just imagine every year to when we come to the breast cancer cases in Ghana, for instance, every year we have more than 2,000 diagnoses, and about even half of them to lose their lives. So it's just a matter of the rising nature of these cancer cases because there's no awareness, and our organizations or our stakeholders too are not helping to help screen a lot of women. Me as an individual, I'm doing my part to help support these people. But as a country, what are we also doing to support these women? At first, we were even advocating that at least screening should at least be covered with the national health insurance so that poor people can easily access it. But it's no avail. So the cases are rising. The cases are rising. They are not declining. And when you pick about 10 cases, people who present to the hospital with cancer cases, about nine of them come in the advanced stage where little can be done for you. We only do what we call a palliative care, where we relieve you of only your symptoms, but with the cancer itself, it can't be cured. Most of our clients come to the hospital at the later stage because at times there are even misdiagnoses. At times, some people, the one thing that makes medicine very difficult is that most of the the signs and symptoms are very similar. So people don't easily recognize these things, and at times even professionals even misdiagnose. And by the time the person realizes the thing has gotten to the advanced stage, so cancer cases are being on the rise because our lifestyle, about one third of about cancer cases are caused by tobacco use, and still there is an increase in tobacco use in the world. Two, we have alcohol consumption. Our diet too is something that we don't pay much particular attention with, and our physical activity. Most of us, we are physically inactive. We don't exercise. We wait for awareness month before we create a challenge that let's work for breast cancer. Let's do this for breast cancer. What of the other days? What are we doing for the other days? So some of these things are still in the rise. Passive smokers, active smokers are still engaging in the smoke, and now there's shisha, and the shisha is now killing the youth. And just imagine WHO saying when we take an hour section of shisha, it's about 100 sticks of cigarettes, and our youth are still engaging in it. So it's something that is on a rise, and if we don't take care within the next 5, 10 years, we should be doing more. We should be doing more. Yeah.
Blaise, thanks so much for sharing that information. I totally agree with you. Since you're funding this yourself, how much approximately is this screening, and how many people are you actually able to support by getting screenings?
Okay, so in Ghana, a pap smear is like, let's say, how much is even the in Ghana cities over here is like about 250 Ghana cities for a pap smear over here, and at times you can even get the lesser one for 150 Ghana cities. So every 3 months, I try as much as possible to screen about 50 people. Every 3 months, I try as much as possible to screen about 50 people. So I can say that is about let's say about $30 or $25 here in Ghana. And usually with the breast screening, we do more of the manual screening, the normal breast, the normal breast examination that we use our palms to examine. But mammogram too over here is like about $20. So when we find abnormal cases, especially in people who are from 50 years and above, I try as much as possible to also solicit for funds where the person will undergo a mammography.
Thank you.
Have you found that the rate of cancer in Ghana is higher in some areas than others? That might be because of some kind of uh, pollution or industry or other activities that are going on. In other words, in the United States, some places that have a lot of organic petrochemical kind of manufacturing facilities have a higher rate of certain kinds of cancer. Is that similar over in Ghana, or is there not that much diversity in industry throughout the entire country?
Yeah, so we've not yet there has not been a research to back where actually the where the cancer cases are coming from. But in here in Ghana, for instance, most of our cases we get them from Kumasi and Accra, where and there are few treatment centers in Ghana here. We have one in Kumasi and we have two treatment centers in Accra. And most of the cases we find them here. And even when you go to the villages, for instance, someone will get cervical cancer, and because the person is vulnerable, at times the person will even die without statistics even capturing the person. So most people in the village they die out of these things, and you will not even know, and statistics will never capture the person. I think 2 months ago we visited a certain village to do a free breast cancer examination for this village, and we realized that there was this woman who had it. When you look at the breast, you can see that this person, the cancer has even spread because the breast was almost rotten and the kind of offensive smell coming out from the breast. But the woman was still there, hoping using some kind of herbal medications to apply on the breast in order to cure this cancer. So we don't really have a concrete statistics concerning which region most of the cases are, but because of the lifestyle activity, because living in Accra and Kumasi, the kind of lifestyle activities like the smoking. In Ghana here, you can get a 9-year, 10-year-old a boy or girl who is smoking, especially the shisha. And now there has been an introduction of this laughing gas, the nitrous oxide, where people go to parties and they inhale balloons, which are in the form of weed. So there has been so many things now. Our youth are engaging in all these things, and family history too is also key here in Ghana. We have families where the mother had breast cancer, the father, the sister had breast cancer, and it's a trend in the family. And we have people too, the same as the prostate cancer. It's a trend. But with cervical cancer, it's no heredity. A cervical cancer is not hereditary. It's only caused by the human papilloma virus. So we have a history of a family history also here in Ghana, as it happens elsewhere in the world.
So you have, in some cases, a genetic predisposition for cancer,
Yes,
but you
yes,
also have a lifestyle
lifestyle.
predisposition for
Yes,
cancer, and that is more applicable to the younger people because of the experimentation and all the
yes,
stuff that they're doing.
yes,
So it's
yes.
not any different than the United States in many regards.
Now the youth want to explore. They want to
Yeah.
explore. So some people, I don't know whether this happens in the other worlds. You when you come to Africa, and especially let's say in Ghana, with usually with cervical cancer cases, we are saying that when you have multiple sexual partners, your chances of coming into contact with the human papilloma virus is very common. And in Ghana, multiple sexual partners is no news. It's no news. In other places, multiple sexual partners is no news. You can have a lady or a man with 2 or 3 partners at the same time, and you don't even know whoever is harboring this HPV, this human papilloma virus. And at times too, our rates, because of consistency in relationships, someone might have been married to this person, the marriage did not work out, the person needs to move on, marry another person, and so you are moving on, you are changing partners, and people become exposed to the human papilloma virus very, 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 very easy, very, very, very easy, and it's something which is worrying. And our diet too, a lot of in our part of the world, we consume a lot of red meat. We consume a lot of red meat, but we are saying that it's also a risk factor for cancers. So we, in as much as we like our red meat, we should reduce the consumption. We should reduce the consumption. Usually, I tell people that if rather than eating, if you want to even eat red meat, you reduce it, or even prefer I even prefer red vegetables than red meat. So you have to choose red vegetable than red meat. Tomatoes is very good. Tomatoes is a good antioxidant containing lycopene, and lycopene is a good antioxidant. We have carrots, we have garlic, the turmerics, all these things are there, but usually we want the junk foods, the processed food, and these things are the things which are killing us a lot.
That's
Blaise, I
true.
love what you're sharing. This is what we talk about a lot on our platform, right, Red?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say it sounds like it's just a little conclave of the United States because that ultra processed food has a lot of toxins in it. It's got a lot of issues with it, and I guess if all you had was a little bit, it's probably not a worry. But people get to where that's all they eat, and when they start doing that, the level of everything increases and your risk increases.
Yeah.
I did want to go off kilter just a little bit because Ghana had the same thing that the rest of the world had with the COVID. Now did some looking up, and you had some serious thousands of cases per day in some cases, but you've had a very very low death rate, which I think is extremely significant, probably
Yeah.
more so than most countries in the world. Ghana survived COVID without even looking back. I mean, it's just like, was it COVID? Yeah, yeah, okay, no big deal. Um, did
Yeah.
you have any issues with COVID in your medical practice that you were doing as a nurse and all the rest of the stuff? Because obviously there's a lot of issues in the United States with COVID and treatment, but did COVID interfere with your ability to offer the services to the people that you were going to see?
Yeah. So, in fact, first of all, let me just um, thank all the health professionals in Ghana here, and especially with the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service over here, and even our the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the Minister of Health. When COVID came, in fact, measures were being put in place to help curb this disease, and in our health facilities. In fact, COVID nearly exposed our health facilities, but with a little of experience and the little support we had from our leaders, quickly we were able to get some centers which were able to house or keep the people who were exposed to this COVID. And most of the cases that we had in Ghana, as it happened elsewhere, were people who were having other conditions already, like diabetes, like hypertension, and the rest. And these people were the people who were having a compromised immune system, where when they come into contact with the COVID, their immune system is not able to deal with the virus. Health personnel still gave their all out. The government provided us with PEPs, and we're able to take charge in our various facilities, and we kept the situation, because usually when COVID came, you take it when anyone who will come under your care, you try as much as possible and make sure that you protect yourself. As you are protecting yourself, you are protecting the patient, and you are providing that optimum care that that patient needs. So our health personnel gave their all out. That's why Ghana, in fact, the number of deaths that came out from COVID, it was lesser. We're all into this, and our leaders also supported us with the necessary PEPs that we needed in our various facilities.
You know, it's pretty impressive. The end result was that Ghana was, I'm not going to say spared of COVID, but it sounds like the same thing. The comorbidities of having multiple health issues, increases your risk of death. But that's common no matter whether COVID existed or not. It doesn't mean once you start having, as you say, hypertension and diabetes and heart issues, I mean, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter whether COVID's there or not. A cold or something else will come in and become just as destructive. But uh, when you're doing your screenings, I assume that there's some level of education awareness that you're providing. Tell us a little bit about how you provide this educational service to the communities you go to.
Okay. So so let me take something. At times we make people know about what cancer is. In our part of the world, like Ghana, when people hear of cancer, um, they tell themselves that, oh, then I'm dead. We try to let people know that cancer is just is something which when you see it early, there's a lot of options for you. And we try to let people know cancer is just one name that we've used for so many diseases. We have more than 200 types of cancers, and we let people know that this cancer just occurs as a result of the overgrowth of cells, and our body is made up of millions of cells. Our body is made up of millions of cells, and these cells have what we call a lifespan. It gets to a time these cells need to die or they need to fade out so that new cells replace them. And as we know, a car without an engine, the car doesn't work. So these cells also have an engine called the DNA. This controls the cell. So whenever certain risk factors or certain things damage this DNA, then cells begin to multiply. And one defining thing about cancer is their inability to create more abnormal cells and invade in other organs and tissues. And some of them, their growth is very aggressive. Some is also slow. So we try as much as possible to let people know the danger signs of these cancers. About 30 to 50% of cancers are preventable when you see it early, especially with screenings and vaccinations. Now, WHO is even recommending that at least by 2030, we should be able to vaccinate at least about 90% of girls before the ages of 15 years. And even at least by 2030, we should be able to screen more women. We should be able to screen more women at least by 70% at the age of 35 for cervical cancer. And all those cases, all the positive cases that we will get, at least we should be able to put about 90% of them on treatment. So we let people know that there's hope after cancer diagnosis. When you see it early, you can easily treat it early, or there can be a lot of options for you. And in here in Ghana, at time when you are talking about the prostate, for instance, people confuse themselves with prostate cancer, prostatitis, and prostate enlargement. So at times, people experience maybe pain during urination. People will be having some blood coming out from their urine, and they will having these signs and symptoms, and they'll say, "Oh, I've gotten prostate cancer." So we let people know that prostatitis is an infection of the prostate. Prostate enlargement is just that with aging, your prostate will enlarge. But the good thing is, it all depends on your lifestyle, where you can manage your signs or symptoms that you face. So you cannot run away from prostate enlargement. But with the cancer is where certain factors damages the DNA of your prostate cells, and these cells begin to multiply and invade in other tissues, in other organs. And so we try to make people know the warning sign. Usually what I tell women, especially when it comes to cervical cancer cases, is, initially cervical cancer, their signs or symptoms, they are asymptomatic. At times you don't even see it at the early stage, but at times too, you will see certain signs that will prompt you that no, this is unusual. I tell women that you need to know what is normal in you, so that whenever the abnormal thing sets in, you get to know. At time, most women will come to the hospital, a doctor will ask the person, when was the last time you had your menstrual period? And even the lady or the woman cannot even remember when she had a menstrual period. People can bleed for a longer period of time. If you're a lady and you bleed for a longer 2 3 weeks, you are still bleeding a month. I had one woman who bled for like 9 good months and was still asking whether she should come to the hospital. So we tell them, whenever you are having this kind of abnormal vaginal flow or bleeding, you should be able to report to the nearest hospital. Whenever our mothers, those who are their menopausal stage, when you get to that stage, estrogen level drops, progesterone level drops. So we don't expect that you'll be having your menstrual period during your menopausal stage. But we have women who get to that stage and they are still having some form of blood flow coming out from the vagina. So when you see that, you should be able to report. People bleed after sex, postcoital bleeding. We let the women know that when you bleed after sex, you need to report. At time when a cervical cancer and the cervix become fragile, the cervix become weak. Any little penetration and it hits the cervix starts to bleed. So when it happens that way, you need to report. When you have pain during sex, consistent pain, that's dyspareunia, you need to also report. Some of the pains might be due to pelvic infections, pelvic inflammation. So you need to report to the hospital so that we can examine and check and see whatever is going on. The sad thing is when it gets to the latter stage, that's where there will be at times fistula, there will be at times there can be leakage of urine and feces coming out from the vagina, and your chances of survival on this earth is about 15%. The same way applies to the breast. You need to know the breast. I tell women that not all lumps in the breast are cancerous. Some are benign. They are just lumps that when we detect, we can easily take it out. So as a woman, know your breast shape, know your breast size, know how your breast feels like, so that when any abnormalities occur, you can easily detect it. So I advise women to at least every month try as much as possible, examine their breast or visit the nearest hospital. Don't wait till October, visit the nearest hospital, or you can do it for yourself. When you observe any changes on your breast, when you observe any lumps on your breast, or even under your armpit, because the breast pressed to your armpit, you can easily report so that a lot can be done for you. And any discharges coming out from the nipple, which is if it's even bloody, or any whitish discharge, if you are not breastfeeding, it's not supposed to happen that way. You need to also report. At times, some people have a discoloration in their breast, and at times, some people would think that is normal because they don't know how their breast looks like. So, with those kind of color discolorations of the breast, you need to report as early as possible so that we can do a lot for you. And God being so good, all the positive cases that have come into contact with, they've been able to undergo treatment for free, and they are still surviving now.
Wow.
Blown away. I just learned so much from you that I've never heard here from any doctor. So I have to thank you, Blaise. That was outstanding that you provided all of that information that is so significant that we really need to know. And I'd love to invite you to come back because we are actually out of time and there's so much more I wanted to ask you. So will you come back and join us again?
Oh, yeah. So I think probably we can do it early in October, first week in October. Is that fine?
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you. We want to discuss what all those awards are behind you and what it's like to be a medical media personality. So there's so much more. Blaise, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? We've been showing your banner. We also have your contact information, which is Instagram as well as Facebook. And there's some other ways for people to reach out. How would you like them to contact you?
Okay, so you can contact me through Facebook, the same name, Blaise Ackom, Instagram Blaise Ackom, TikTok Blaise Ackom, and my email is cervicalcancer06@gmail.com. So the lab for cervical cancer. So cervicalcancer06@gmail.com. And the contact number is +233 24 031 5450, +233 24 031 5450. 50. Yeah. So I would like to say I would like to say hi. I would like to thank all my people at the Madina Polyclinic Kekele for all their support. My medical director, especially Dr. Mrs. Prince Lassian, for all the support that they've been giving me at the Lankwanta 9 district. It's a great pleasure. It's a great pleasure.
Blaise, it's been an honor to meet you, and thank you so much for all the incredible work that you are doing. You are a true humanitarian.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And Blaise,
Okay.
I commend you strongly for getting the word out to people, because if they don't know what can happen, they're going to let it go and let it go. And then pretty soon they don't have options. But catching it on the front end and your awareness, your education, truly that's super commendable. So thank you so very much for doing that for people.
Thank you. Thank you. Hoping to see you next time.
I look forward to
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Blaise
Yeah.
Ackom joining us from Ghana. Thanks so much. Be well, and we look forward to welcoming you back.
Thank you.
Now.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Wow, Red. I felt like that was Red Part 2 right there.
Well, as you talk about many times, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because the USA Global TV and Radio Network is worldwide, and Ghana is one of those countries in the world that you just don't expect to have somebody as a guest on. Very, very informative today. I learned a lot. I did a little bit of research ahead of time on some things, but he just came in and said, here's what it is, and truly, I was not expecting that level of detail, but it was so well received because of his manner, his ability to communicate to somebody. Said, know yourself when you're healthy, know yourself when something's just not quite right. And that's not even something our doctors talk about over here at all. I'm sure you would agree on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you and I both learned something that's saying quite a lot. So well done, Blaise. Keep up the great work. We are going to be signing off. But Red, how do people get in touch with you, and who would you like to contact you?
I am a book coach. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I primarily work in the world of health and wellness. I concentrate on longevity. Easiest way to reach me is through my email or my phone. Those are my two preferred methods. My email is red, like the color RED, .olaughlin. That's OLAUGHLIN. OLAUGHLIN. So it's red.olaughlin at gmail.com. That's probably the easiest way anywhere in the world for somebody to get in touch with me, and more than happy to answer any questions that I can for you.
Thank you so much, Red. And before we sign off, I know we're running out of time. Today is also the International Day of Listening, and we have a new book that is out. It's out today, Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. So this has been a labor of love, as you know. This is the calling card that I'm going to be giving out to people. This book contains 2 assessments on listening. So you take one when you first start the book to see what are your listening skills. How many times do people tell us they're great listeners, Red? And then we're like, yeah, I don't know. There's some work that could be done there. But then there's also a test at the end to see how much you actually incorporated and understood and can actually make actionable. And then there's testimonials, there's case studies. So please go over to Amazon and pick up your copy. Red?
Okay. What was the name at the bottom of that book that you kept trying to hide from us?
Is that my name?
Yeah, it kept going in and out of focus. So, but yes, that's your, not banner, it's your brand as a chief listening officer for USA Global TV and Radio Network. But as Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, well known in many regards, and in addition to that book, you have another couple books that are also out literally this week. Would you talk about the 2 of those?
Absolutely. So we had an issue with the cover. This is forthcoming. It's been available in an ebook. It's available right now in an ebook. And it was a #1 Amazon new release at least 10 times. I'm sorry, #1 bestseller at least 10 times so far since we released it. But this is for children. It's the 5th book in our children's series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. And what I think is so special about these books is that all of the animal characters on the book cover represent real people who have taken the course, The Power of Listening, that we offer here at USA Global TV and Radio. And that's available right now. The paperback will be available, I would say, probably within 24 hours. And our next book is being delivered today, Red. I can't wait to see it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we will be celebrating the International Day of Listening on another day. And to Blaise's point, Blaise gave a lot of great information. It's about listening. It's about listening to what information is out there, and then what are you going to do to process it and incorporate it and bring it into your life. So I think I was listening acutely to what Blaise was saying and realizing that there's a lot of things that I don't even know that I didn't know, that I'm grateful for him. So I hope that people will realize, as we say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And when you're using those ears, you really can learn something that could save your life. So God bless you, Blaise. Thanks for being here. God bless you, Red, and everybody else for coming right back. Red, what's the next show before you go?
Food and our emotions. And we're going to be talking today about kosher foods and how does that affect your health? How is it different than the standard American diet, the Mediterranean diet? There are a lot of things that we hear, but sometimes we don't go into enough detail to understand. Well, what exactly is it yet? I know what it is, but anyway, that's what we're going to try to solve today is what is it? What does it mean? How can it help me? So Food and Our Emotions coming up in about 14 minutes on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
All right. Thanks so much, Red. We're signing off for right now. We look forward to seeing you momentarily after we take a health break. Okay. Bye for now, everyone. Thanks, Blaise. Thanks, everyone.